So the mother of a 15-year-old girl will be taking to court against Daphne Nell's alleged killer. She says that he raped her. He raped her daughter, rather, and she wants justice. The teen was 11 years old when the rape allegedly occurred. She said that the case was reported but never investigated. Nell, who was murdered at school by the same suspect, brought the unsolved rape case to the surface. So how will the legal process unfold? Let's now bring in the founder of South Africa's National Men's Forum, Mbuyiselo Botha, to discuss this. Mbuyiselo, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. I was saying to my colleagues that when we were discussing this story last week, we were speaking to Officer Peters, one of the officers who were tracking down a serial rapist who was homeless. And in that conversation with her, she spoke about encouraging other women to come forward who may have been this man's victim. And this would have been years ago, but saying that it is still possible to prosecute a case of this nature. Just quickly tell us what process would unfold in such a matter.
Well, Adrian, thank you, and good morning to you and your viewers. Thank you for inviting me. I think there are about three principles that one has to talk about first. One of them, Adrian, is that rape cases do not, expire or prescribe. The second thing is that one of the things that would happen is when we report this case, one's innocence, or in fact, one has to say that there should be no negative inference drawn that because it's all about justice. And the last one is that the survivor would have when Adrian would have people that witnesses that might come back to back her story. And we know that like I said, it does not prescribe or it does not expire. So it would not, as to when it happened, would not matter in this instance. And we know, look at R. Kelly, Danny Jordan is facing a rape case. Jennifer alleged that he had raped her. You also have, numerous cases where it would, Bill Cosby, the cases are many that one could talk about, Adrian.
Yeah, and here in South Africa, of course, the case of Bob Hewitt, a lot of people would remember that particular case. And the alleged incidents happening in the late 80s and the early 90s. But then from a prosecution perspective and trying to gather all of the information, because sometimes immediately after an incident of that nature would have taken place, you are told that DNA would be very important to try and ensure that the NPA convinced the court beyond reasonable doubt that the individual is guilty. But in a case where the incident happened many, many years ago, how difficult is it to prosecute?
Well, it might be difficult, but not impossible, Adrian. You and I, we spoke now about Bob Hewitt. It happened in the 80s and only prosecuted in the 90s. And Judge Baum, in that case in particular, had said things that which I thought were very critical, that, the witnesses, how they collaborated, the stories, plausible, made a lot of sense. So it should not even matter because there must have been, or there would be witnesses to the crime. So it is ultimately how the survivor or the victim, together with the prosecution, is able to have a watertight case.
Yeah, and I guess from the victim's side as well, because here you'd have somebody, perhaps maybe they will decide to take the stand. It will depend on how the prosecution goes about that particular case, if they do take the matter up. But from the victim side, being as consistent and coherent as possible, because we know that the defense will be poking holes in their version of events.
Yeah, absolutely. But you would understand that someone would not take a matter that had happened 30 years ago, take it to court, being unsure of his or her facts. In this instance, her facts. You would be sure that there would be evidence that would corroborate, what the happenings of that unfortunate sad day when she was sexually violated, Adrian.
Yeah. What would your advice be to other people who may have been victims of sexual violence, but at the time decided not to go ahead with lodging a case or complaint against the individual?
Just to know, as I said, that such matters like your murder cases or rape in particular do not expire. So one has got to have confidence that in fact it will be prosecuted. But also the support system. It's important that the support system is strong, that family members do not go on and discourage, do not go on and seek other. I mean, today's Heritage Day, there would be others would say culturally, to Sabinkomo, we would make sure that we do cultural, things that would obviate or would make the crime lesser or the pain lesser. So it's important, Adrian, to you and your viewers that the significant others, the importance of support is critical in ensuring that the survivor, the victim, is able to stand up. The excruciating, defense which would seek to poke holes into the victim's version.
Yeah, and in this particular case, the accused is still a minor. And, of course, would have been a minor at the time of the incident. I think he would have been about, 13 years old at the time that the incident took place. And we know we have a diversion program, right, that has been introduced according to the justice system. But how would the justice or the NPA approach such a matter, considering that this is a minor that we are speaking about here, and this incident happened when they were allegedly 13 years old?
I think with sensitivity, but let's go back to that incident you're talking about. I mean, I am of the view that this minor, then there are these centers that the minor should have been confined. Look at what had happened. It is alleged that when he roamed free, he then went on to commit another crime. So whilst it is important to ensure that there is sensitivity in how this matter is handled, the NPA, but it's also important that the survivor of the victim's interests are taken into account, Adrian. What it means ultimately, it's about justice, but the justice is not one way. I mean, it's both for the woman and also for the perpetrator, to ensure that this process is in fact transparent. So for me, sitting here, the sad thing was that nothing was done to ensure that the perpetrator does not commit this again.
Okay, and finally, the schools are closed, and we come from societies where you have children playing so-called house, where the other one will be the mother and the other one will be the father. And we know what happens during those times of playing so-called house. Because if eventually what does take place sometimes is that it does lead to the sexual violation of individuals. How then do we get to have the conversations with the children and also the understanding of what consent means and also sexual violation means?
I think the sad part, Adrian, is that we want to do it after the fact. The point I'm making is that, the 9 provinces, the MECs, education officials, these are conversations, discussions that should have happened or should continue to happen, but also family members, fathers, mothers. It's important that, especially to the boy child, that we begin this process very early so that we do not put the disproportionate burden on the girl, to that it is her who has to protect herself. Issues of consent you are raising, and then it's so important that at the center is how do we make sure that this boy understands no to be no. So what I'm saying is that there should be an appeal to our education authorities to make sure that such educational engagements do take place before before the fact. That means we should not close the stable when the horse has bolted. It may be late now to start these conversations because we had been reluctant or loath to engage in such important discussions with our students.
Yeah, and I guess
or
it's
with
also
our pupils.
about the parents also being comfortable speaking about sex. Thank you so much for your time. Vuyiselo Botha is from the South African Men's Forum. Really appreciate your time.